Hello, this is Nicholas Gummo, and I'm joined by Ning Chi, Andrew Forrest, Daksh Goomber, and Ajay Sai, and we are the Datathon Team4. Today, we're analyzing the situation of Capital Bikeshare. The situation is that Capital Bikeshare offers an affordable options for commuters and tourists in the DC area. However, intermediate transportation has recently impacted Capital Bikeshare's market share. The question we're answering today is, how can Capital Bikeshare capture more market share? Our governing thought is that during the months of prime ridership, the months of March through October, Capital Bikeshare should prioritize having adequate bike inventory at high volume locations. That should be tourist-centric in order to adequately capture more market share. We reached this conclusion through several different versions of data visualization, as well as some personal intuition about the popularity of Capital Bikeshare. Our intuition tells us that if bikes are available for riding, they are likely to be used, whereas if bikes are not available for riding, that is whenever tourists will consider other options for transit. Now I'm going to pass it over to Daksh Goomber, who will discuss the key idea number 1.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. I'm Daksh, and I would like to talk to you about the first key idea that led us to our governing thought. So before we got started, we wanted to know who Capital Bikeshare's customers were and when were they most likely to use a bike sharing service. As you can probably see that during the entire year, we start to see an increase in the ridership from February, which keeps on increasing until October, which is the first time when we see a decline. So this was our first point and our first key idea, and we thought that this is a very important point for us, and which led on to further key points, which Ajay will explain in just a second.
Thank you, Daksh. Hey guys, this is Ajay, and I'm going to introduce to the next key point which supports our governing thought.
Thanks, Ajay. Hi, my name is Andrew, and I'd like to introduce our last supporting idea to our governing thought. The maps to the right of the slide show the concentration of ride start points across DC for both casual riders and Capital Bikeshare members. As one can see, casual riders are far more likely to start their bike ride around the National Mall, while members of the service will most likely start or pick up their bike from farther downtown. Furthermore, if one were to aggregate the two maps, they would see that the top 5 starting stations are all situated around the mall and Capitol Hill. This is regardless of rider type. Based off of this, it is easy to imagine that Capital Bikeshare would benefit from ensuring stations around the mall and the Capitol Hill area are well stocked with bikes to best serve both casual riders and members, especially during the warmer months, and for casual riders on the weekends, and for members of the service during the weekdays. I'd like to hand it over to Ning for closing thoughts.
Thank you, Andrew and Ning. I'll talk about recommendations and next steps for Capital Bikeshare. Based on our key ideas, we recommend Capital Bikeshare to ensure that bike placement matches the actual demand. For example, on weekends, they could implement more stations near tourist central area such as Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson Memorial, and Smithsonian National Mall, where there are many museums and attractions, in order to increase ridership for tourists. And also, on weekdays, Capital Bikeshare should ensure that bikes are enough near stations and business districts for commuters in order to keep their original market share. So with that, I would like to thank you all for taking the time. I hope you enjoyed our presentation.